Today we're going to go over the group test on circles. So let's start out here with problem number 1. You'll remember that a segment of a circle, this is a segment, and the segment of the circle is this area right here. And it is a region bounded by 2 arcs. What we really wanted you to see here was that it was bounded by a chord and 1 arc. So that's going to be 1 arc, and that's going to be false then. Circles that intersect at only 1 point are concentric. Concentric circles are circles that have the same center and never intersect. Circles that intersect at 1 point are called tangent. You can see these 2 circles intersected each other at 1 point, and they are tangent. An inscribed angles measure is double. We know that's not true. It's half. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Here's an angle, an arc. Here's an angle. So this arc is 120 degrees. The inscribed angle is half. The angle formed by the radius and a tangent, here's a radius and a tangent at that point, is always a right angle. Indeed, that's true. And all the points on all the points of a chord are inside a circle. A chord has its endpoints on the circle. So that's false. Okay? We can say most of the points of a chord. So this is how you do the true-false section. Moving on here, which describes, and you can see here, I don't know, it doesn't show up on the video, but on top here it has arrows going both directions. That means it's a secant. Correct answer, C. What is the length of BD? So we're looking for this whole length here. We know that these two are going to be, it's bisected by the radius there. So we're going to call that x and x. And if indeed this is 4 and that's 6, that means this part down here is 10. 6 plus 4. So the radius of this circle is 10. So we can use that theorem that talks about intersecting chords. So this part of the chord here is 6 plus 10 is 16, and that's 4. So it's going to be 16 times 4 equals x times x, or 64 equals x squared. X can be -8 and 8. Since we're talking lengths, we're going to cross that one out. But we only found x, and they want us to find BD. So BD is equal to 2 times 8, which is 16. Correct answer is D. Up next, find angle RST to find that angle. Well, the cool thing is we can go find this angle right here because we know this arc. And it's an inscribed angle on the arc, as we talked about in problem number 5. This is going to be 51 degrees. So we're going to call this x, and we're going to say x plus 51 plus 67 are all in a triangle here. Therefore, they must add up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to do 180 minus 51 plus 67, and get my answer is 62. So x equals 62. And that's going to be letter B. I'm just going to check always my answers, make sure I don't tell you misinformation here. Let's go down and talk about number 9 now. What is angle WTV? This angle right there. Okay, well, we've got a lot of information given, but simply, if this is 90 degrees, this is an inscribed angle half as much. 90 divided by 2 is 45. Ignore all the other information. For number 10, sector area. It's a fraction of the circle, and it's going to be the area fraction of the circle. So we always do fraction of the circle, looks like this, and then pi r squared. And that's going to be my piece of pie, pizza. So in this case, if the arc is 120 degrees, the central angle is also 120 degrees. And I notice immediately that this is a fraction that equals 1/3. And I think in my life it's going to be much easier if I can recognize that. So I'm going to write this as 1/3 pi 9. That looks like 3 pi. Letter D. Okay? So, up next, we want KNL. We're looking for that angle. And it's simply the average of the arcs that it intersects. So we're going to call that X. X equals 1/2 the average of the arcs. And that's going to be 160, 80. And number 12. What's the value of X? A lot of groups did this one wrong. I don't understand why. The theorem here says if you have secants that intersect outside the circle, that it's the entire secant times the external part equals the entire secant times the external part. So let's do this here. The entire secant here is not 4x, ladies and gentlemen. It's 4 plus x. And we're going to put that in parentheses, times the external part, which is 4. And then the whole thing here is 8 times the external part, which is 5. So we use some beautiful mathematics now, distribute that, and we get 40 there. 4x equals 24, x equals 6, answer the question. Oh, it's only x, find x. There it is. So we use the formula, or the theorem, which says the whole secant times the external part equals the whole secant times the external part. All right, what's the value of x here? And this theorem says that x is actually going to be half of the large part, 65, minus the short arc that it intersects, 25. And what does that come out to be? Does it come out to be 20? No, 40. 40. Half of 40 is 20. So number 13 indeed is 20. For number 14, what's the equation of the circle? The key thing here is that you can see that the radius is 2. So r squared is 4. And it looks like they all have radius of 4. So we can't get rid of any of the answers yet. But we can talk about how the radius center, or the center of the circle, is at -1, 2. You can see here, there's the origin right there. That's the origin. So it's over 1 in the x direction, -1, and up 2. So if that's the center of the circle, you'll remember the formula is this. So we're going to plug in a -1 here, and it's going to turn into that. And plug in the 2 here, and it's going to turn into that, and that's a 4. So which one of these answers is that one? And it looks like letter C. Great. And finally, in the last multiple choice problem, a plane is cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet. What is the distance to the nearest mile from the plane to the horizon? So they're looking for this distance right here. We're going to call it x. I'm going to draw a bigger picture just to help you out. Just know here, the radius here is 40,000 feet too. So it's 40,000 feet here, that radius, and that radius is 40,000 feet. This is x, and then this is the cruising part here. So we need to go convert 30,000 feet into miles. Okay, and we're going to add that on right there. So we divide 30,000 feet by 5120. 30,000 feet. And then my calculator stopped working. There it is. Divided by 5120 equals. All right. So that's the number of miles that the plane was flying. Let's not round it off. Let's try to keep as much as we can because we're going to do further calculations. And so this is 5.8, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to add on 4,000 to that. And indeed, that's the length of the hypotenuse. So according to Mr. Pythagoras now, this is what we get. 5 point da. And we go solve it. And I'm going to go use the calculator here. I'm going to say let's square that previous answer minus 4,000 squared. And there's that. And so it's 46. I don't think this is important to write down, but there you go. And now let's take the square root of that by doing square root of answer. And we get 216. Okay, closest one here, 213. I will do this. If your group put not here, I will give you credit for that if I can see the 216 on your paper. So if I did not give you credit for not here, and you had 216 on your paper, I will be glad to give you the extra point. So those are the true, false, and the multiple choice solutions for the group test. Tune into the other video for the short answer.